Hello and welcome to this series. This is a series called Better Call Saul, where we discuss what is currently possible, that if it were impossible, or what is currently impossible, that if it were possible, would fundamentally change the way we do business as real estate agents. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about what if you could get off of that real estate roller coaster. Here with me today is my co-host, Rachael Real, broker owner of Rachael Real Estate in Chicago. She's been an agent for 18 years, been on the Pro Standards Committee for 8 of those years, currently serving as a 3 times past chair. She is passionately nerdy about all things real estate and all the real estate rules. Hello, Rachael.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
Great.
Good. And joining us today, as always, is Saul Klein, the godfather of real estate technology. Saul has been licensed to sell real estate for over 47 years. He was an original team member of Realtor.com and the creator of NAR's technology certification program we know as ePro. Saul was personally responsible for the first 500,000 listings to be displayed to the public on Realtor.com, spearheading listing syndication, which is the distribution of your listings to the consumer over the internet. Welcome, Saul. Today we'll dive into let's dive into today's topic. So how do we get off this roller coaster?
Well, I mean, that's like the big thing, right, Saul? It's like, I mean, I get nauseous even talking to some real estate agents about.
I don't even like coaster, so just get me off this thing.
Is it always been like this, Saul?
It really has.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the reason for that is just the uncertainty of compensation in the real estate business, and that uncertainty, and then the lack of capital for people to power through the uncertainty really takes away people's ability or desire even to plan. But the only way you're going to get off this roller coaster is to understand and to implement planning procedures in your business. And I'll take it right down to the easiest, and that is, how many people do you know that sell real estate that don't make quarterly tax payments?
All of them.
No.
And so how as bad as that? So all of a sudden, right, it's the end of the year, or it's the beginning of a new year, and you're not starting fresh, you're starting in a hole.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so just one change, your one takeaway from today: make your quarterly payments. We're done.
That's it. We're done.
I mean, at least small steps, people, baby steps.
But I think too, like, our sales cycle is, call it 90 days, right? So whatever you do today, it'll show up in 90 days. So like, just even that simple bit of planning. Wasn't there a book about that? Oh no, it's the 12-week. Have you guys seen this book?
Yeah, even if you get brand new in real estate, even if you're the luckiest person in the world, you get a listing and it sells the first day, you're not going to get paid for 90 days typically.
But planning can be hard, right? Because you're like, especially if you're, let's say, under 5 years in the business, you're worried about where's this next deal coming from. So like, how can you plan? What is your recommendations?
Well, so first thing is kind of understand the difference between strategic planning and tactical planning.
Okay.
So there's short-term planning and there's long-term planning. And when we talk about strategic planning, that really requires a vision and a mission. And so let's talk first about that, because what happens, you get up every morning and you work for the end of the day, and you get up every morning, you work for the end of the day, and what you're hoping is that you can go out to dinner on Friday night. And so really we need a vision that goes beyond Friday night.
Okay.
And so the first thing is, what is a vision? So a vision is your future state. And people need to take the time to think about their future state. It's like, what will I look like when I'm grown up?
Right. When I'm a real capital R realtor.
What will my business look like when it's grown up? Not what will it look like tomorrow, but when I'm grown up. Like, that's the vision. And there are different visioning exercises that people can do. I remember once I participated in a program where you visioned your life by writing your obituary.
Oh,
I've seen that exercise.
Well, it makes you think about your future, right?
So it does.
If you get, somebody's giving your eulogy, what are they going to say about you? And what you'd like them to say is all the things you wanted to accomplish.
Yes.
Right. So step out into the future. Yeah. Start and then look back and say, okay, what are all the things I have to do to get out to this future? What is my vision of am I going to be a sole proprietor? Just me selling real estate for the next 30 years? or am I going to have agents working for me, or am I going to develop a property
Don't
management
do
company?
that. Oh
Right,
God,
really.
don't do that.
We've all been down that road, right?
Oh
But
man.
whatever am I going to own multiple offices?
No, don't do
Am
that.
I going to be a real estate consultant? Is the industry? So what's my vision?
My vision is to be the czar of real estate of the world.
Czar of real estate of the world. Good. All we need are the tactical steps to get there, right?
Yeah. First, I had to figure out what a czar was, and technically, apparently, as one of our great audience members heard, it's the czarina. He told me. Not
Oh,
yes.
okay. I can buy that.
Yeah.
And so then what's your purpose? Why do you want to accomplish that vision? What's your mission? And so people should take the time to think about that. And then you can start to look at, well, if I've got a 20-year planning horizon or a 30-year planning horizon, what are the big things that have to be done? Like if I really want
Well,
to
I think
own an office.
when I talk to people about this, they have a concern about like, what if they're wrong?
Right. It's the fear. It's almost like a crippling fear
Yes.
to move forward in some of these things, because you go, well, what if that's not right? Then what do I do to fix it? And then do I lose all that time?
So I think part of this again is you start with the vision,
Mm-hmm.
you give yourself a mission, then you lay out strategic objectives, and then how do you accomplish those major strategic objectives? I call them projects.
Yeah.
Right.
You establish these projects. Projects have milestones, key things that must be accomplished. You want to also attach to that, you want to look at, well, what's the critical path? Because sometimes there's 5 ways to get to the end.
Right.
And right, so what's the easiest way, the quickest way? They call it the critical path to get there. And then we look at timelines.
Right.
And then
You're
you want to
managing a project basically, but I also think that I've seen people have a tendency to say, okay, I want to do these 800 things next year, right? So like, what have you guys seen that's been, how many things can people actually accomplish on average if they haven't even done any planning at all ever, and this is like their first year to plan?
Well, if their first year to plan, I think then they need to look at the year and say, how much money do I want to earn this year?
Yeah. And what's
Right.
that going to take? And what was the gap between last year and what I want? Because if the gap is like so wide, something pretty dramatic has to change, right?
Yeah. So
Right.
what's my revenue objective for the year?
Right.
How many, based on where I am, how many transactions does that take?
Right.
To get that many transactions, how many people do I need to, how many do I have to get that many closings?
Or should I move?
Right. You're reverse engineering your entire year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're getting out
Well,
into
I
the
think
future and looking back.
You want to do more deals, but your current sphere is not big enough. What are you going to do? Well, you need to make new friends. So the best way to do that is through cold calling. I use RedX to call expireds, for sale by owners, for rent by owners, circle prospect, and you can too. Go to theredx.com/fight club and get your setup fee waived.
Right. And in this business too, we have a lot of, and then this is just, I think, has been a perpetual problem of people trying to reinvent the wheel and overcomplicating things where we don't need to do that. There are so many ways that this has been done in the past.
Mhm.
Don't overcomplicate it. Simplify and stop trying to reinvent things that have already been done. Go
And
simple, dial it in, and then execute.
And if you've been in business for at least a year, go
Mhm.
back. Hopefully you kept good records and go back and look at
Right.
how much revenue you generated, where you spent the money, where you had success, where you didn't have success, double up on the things where you had success and eliminate the things where you
Exactly.
didn't have success. And so that
Right.
requires, though, taking a look at the past year. So I was involved in a conversation this last week with people who just came up with raw percentages. Okay, I'm in the real estate business. How much should I save for taxes? How much should I put away for marketing? How much should I put away for lead generation? Well, the best indicator is not strangers.
Right.
The best indicator is, what have you done this year?
Yeah.
What did you do last year? What did you do over the last 5 years? Which year gave you the best result?
Right.
And use that to help you plan for this year, right? So you start with this year, but I think it's still important to kind of have an idea of where you want to go. And don't worry if it's not the wrong direction, because part of this too is adjusting.
Yeah.
It's measuring and adjusting along the way. So there's no wrong answer.
Right. Well, I also think, yes, there is no wrong answer. And also, the way that everybody else is doing it is not the way that you're going to do it. Right. Because everybody
Right.
has,
It's a very individual business.
yeah. So, exactly. And also, if somebody is doing like for me, I always say you only need two ways to generate leads. One is from the people that you know, and one is from the people that you don't know. You don't need 7 different ways to generate leads, because most agents are wanting to do 24 to 36 deals a year, and that's it. And you probably know enough people to do that. And that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And
We're
that's to my point, that's you're overcomplicating. You know what I mean? When you're
Yeah.
trying to come up with all these creative ways to do things, that just makes things ultimately more complicated and drains you of your resources, where you can just
I agree.
focus on a couple of things
Yeah.
and learn how to adjust.
But I think people will say, like, as they're watching this, somebody may say, well, I did 5 deals. I want to do 12, one a month. I want to get to one a month. How can I plan for that? I still don't understand. Yes. Okay. I hear you. So my vision for myself is in 3 years, I want to be doing 36 deals a year. So 3 a month. But I still don't know how to get from here to there.
So again, what's your closing ratio? You have to look at your own success.
I'm
And you
sorry.
have to
Did you
Right.
say track and measure what you're doing?
track and measure.
No,
But
what?
Saul, I don't need to be accountable to anything or anyone.
Ah, now you hit a big one.
That's why we're independent contractors,
Accountability.
damn it.
Right, because I get to do what I want.
Right.
So part of this whole planning process is responsibility and accountability.
Uh-oh.
And I think the accountability piece, that's
Womp womp.
when coaching comes into the game, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't
Sure.
hold yourself accountable and you need somebody else to, isn't that the whole idea or part of the idea behind coaching? Is
Yeah.
somebody to help
Absolutely.
hold you accountable.
But also too, I forget which one of my coaches told me this, but they changed the definition of accountability. Being accountable is like, are you accountable? Like, do people count on you? Does your word matter? It's the ability to be counted on. Are you that
Right.
person? Does what you say matter? And if it does, then you are accountable. You actually are. It's not a bad thing. Most people think it's like a negative connotation,
No, actually, accountability is a real interesting concept. And so really, it's not about accountability. It's how do you learn to be accountable?
To doing
Right,
the correct
right.
things, right? Because we're all super accountable and we could do all the things that don't matter, right? Like we can check our emails, we can do laundry, we can do all these things that don't generate business. They're not dollar producing
Right.
activities. So it's really like tracking and measuring those dollar producing activities. Like you said, look back and say, where did those deals come from? Who are
Yep.
those people? What did I do to get them? Like, how can I do more of that? Was it fun? Did I like them? Are those the people that I want to be in business with on a regular basis?
Right.
That's the key, is you've already got all of that research right there.
Right.
And so look at the successes and then go in and look at all of the components of those successes.
Right.
And then look at the things that you could do to increase that. And that's where and then hold yourself accountable. And again, for me, accountability is just doing what you say you're going to do. And,
Exactly.
and I learned how to do it in a very interesting way. I learned how to do it because people took roll where I went to school, and they took roll like 12 times a day.
Wow.
And so if you're held to roll, right, where you have to be in a certain place at a certain time, 12 times a day for 4 years. After 4 years, you totally know that there's certain things that of course, back then, if you didn't do it, then you got in trouble, right?
Yeah.
There was a consequence.
You mean there's
Here you get in
consequences when you
trouble.
don't do what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, right. But here there is, right? You're on the roller coaster. Like, do you
roller
want the
coaster.
roller coaster? And I would offer that I have a
The
work.
non-paying roller coaster.
Right. You're poor, you're broke, you're on the corner in a box. But like, so I have a time study. And so if you want that, you can go to jennifermurtland.com/vault. And what it is keep track of everything you do in 15-minute increments for 3 days. Let me tell you how enlightening that is.
Oh, I can imagine. Yes. Just the thought of it alone.
We used to call that a time log.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
They keep a time log. And so people don't want to because they know that they're not effective.
Yeah,
And so people resist keeping a time on. But Jennifer, you're absolutely right. When you do it, it starts to open your
It
eyes.
doesn't take 3
Yes,
days.
it
I can
does.
tell you that. It takes a half a day.
No, it can take about a half a day, right? Oh man, right.
So the key to getting off the roller coaster is to plan. The key to planning for most people, if they've been in the business any period of time, is to look at their history
Yeah.
and to measure the successes and to measure the failures and do more of those things that bring them success and less of those things that bring them failure. And it's there.
Right.
It's
That's
your
it.
history.
And
Right.
to Rachel's point, make it simple. Like if it feels like it's a lot,
Right.
really look at it. It won't be a lot. It'll
Pare
be
it down.
one or
Right.
two, maybe 3 things, but probably not.
Right.
And that's
Right.
it. Well,
Well,
If-
what if you're a new agent and you don't have a history? Go
I
find
was
a
just gonna
successful
ask that,
agent
yep.
and say to them, I'm doing this for myself, but I'd like to look at what you've done and I want to help you plan. And maybe there are people that would allow
That's a
you
good
to do that
idea.
with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or just sitting in on a seasoned agent's planning, planning session when they're getting ready. This time of the year is perfect for getting ready for next year.
Yeah.
So you take a new agent, you sit down and go, okay, how are you going to plan for next year? Well, I don't have any data to look back on. Okay, well, here's mine. Let's talk through it. And I would venture to say that as the seasoned agent who's going to sit with a new agent and do that, you're going to realize things too that you didn't realize as you're talking through it, teaching it to someone else.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
excellent.
So we used to say, old phrase, we used to say, do you want a future by default or a future by design?
Yeah.
The future by default, that's a computer term. Future by default is the future you have because you didn't die last night. So you wake up in the morning and there's the future, right?
Here it is, right? It's
It
whatever
is
we're
gonna
going to do
happen.
right now.
Right. And
Yep.
the future by design is just give it a little thought and guarantee that if you just give it a little thought, you'll have a better year.
I love
Absolutely.
this. And there's so many great tools out there for this. You can reach out to any one
Yes.
of us and we'll be happy to help you. So if people want to
Absolutely.
get into your world, they want to learn about more real estate news, ask questions, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
They can send me an email at saul@bettercallsaul.realtor. I answer all my email. And go to thedataadvocate.com is a website where we try to post all the things that are happening in the industry that we think are important to people. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of it's not important.
Yeah.
There are some things that are very
There's a lot of
important
noise in there.
and very critical, and you need to pay attention to that.
Awesome. And the
Right.
Facebook group?
And Facebook, Real Talk is our Facebook group. And so come join us on, and also we're on LinkedIn, but join us on Real Talk. We've got a lot of great people who've been in the industry for years and years and years and glad to help out.
Yeah, serious questions,
Yes.
not about your headshot.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Rachel, if people have questions for you or they have a referral in Chicago, what is the best way?
The best way to reach me is by cell phone at 630-542-8688 or via email at rreal@dealwithreal.com.
Awesome. And if you are looking for an accountability group, we have one at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. That's 8 a.m. Eastern, where we all work together on Zoom, on mute, but it's a nice accountability to start your day. You can message.
You're taking a roll call is what you're doing, right?
Doing a roll call. Yeah.
You're doing roll call, 8 a.m. roll call. That's what it
8 a.m.
is.
Eastern. Text me at 513-400-1691. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Saul.
Are you struggling with what is the ideal path for you? What's next for you? There's so many options to try to figure out, and there's so many different ways that you could take your business, but it's all pretty confusing. So our coach, Coach John Kitchens, came up with a short little quiz that will help you figure out the ideal path for you. Go to realestatecareeraccelerator.com, take the free short quiz, and figure out your ideal path. That's realestatecareeraccelerator.com. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a podcast.